I'm here with Lewis from the Marshall Way. Uh, Lewis, go ahead and introduce yourself for us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Lewis. I'm from London, England, now living in Yamanashi, Japan. I actually have the most beautiful view of Fujisan right outside my
Oh
window.
man, I bet that's
So,
fantastic. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, opening the curtains to that every morning. Oh, so good.
great, great.
Where do you live?
I live in Tochigi.
Okay, I've
Yeah,
not
up in
not been there.
Utsunomiya, so it's a North Kanto area.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
not too far.
no, it's about 100 kilometers north of Tokyo or so.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So 100, that's like still inside Tokyo.
Uh,
So
I
big.
mean, yeah. So actually, it's funny. The city I live in, Utsunomiya, is the is in kind of the central part of Tochigi, um,
Hmm.
and the southern part of Tochigi Prefecture is considered part of Greater Tokyo. Like,
Ah, yeah,
so
see.
it's
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
but it's still quite far from Tokyo.
Hmm.
If you drive, it takes about two hours or so to drive there. Um, Take the train, it's about rapid trains about an hour and a half, and Shinkansen 45 minutes. So it's
Yeah.
not too
Some
not too
people
bad. Yeah.
commute for an hour and a half, so
They
that's,
do,
yeah.
they do. So you're from London, and
Hmm.
what brought you to Japan? Like, how long have you been here, and what brought you to Japan in the first place?
Yeah, well, so um to give you a quick life story,
Right.
I began practicing martial arts. I did karate when I was a child,
Mm,
and then I started practicing Muay Thai when I was 21. And that's where my whole adult life really started, from practicing Muay Thai. I joined the army. I became a personal trainer. I began working in security. Um, and um, I always wanted to come to Japan.
right.
I've always been interested in Japanese culture. I was a kid watching anime, playing video games, all that good stuff.
Right.
And then
Mm,
grew up a little bit, and I started really getting into cars. I love Japanese cars. I had a Honda Civic, a Nissan Silvia. Um, so I've always been interested in Japanese culture, and it's always somewhere I wanted to visit. And then when I was 25, 26, I came here on holiday, and yeah, I really felt like I could live here,
right.
you know. And I've never felt that about anywhere else. But actually, after I went back to England, after coming here on holiday, that a year or so later, unrelated, is kind of when I started practicing meditation and doing a lot of research about Buddhism, Zen, the Tao, Stoicism, philosophy.
Right.
And actually now coming living here in Japan, um, yeah, like that meditation and staying at temples is one of my main reasons to actually stay here. I
Right.
saw in an interview with somebody else,
Mm,
you asked what was your reason to come to Japan, and why do you continue to stay here? And
right.
that's a really key thing, is because those two things are often different.
Right. That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm.
so you what attracted you here, and what's keeping you here is that. So it's very
Mm.
interesting. So you came here on holiday in you said you were 25, 26?
Yes, yeah, I'm now 31.
Okay. So you've been in Japan um well, for many people they would say you've been here quite a long time, but
Well, no, I've been living here almost 3 years now.
okay, okay. So
Mhm.
have you have you always been in Yamanashi Prefecture? Is that where your wife's from, or yeah?
Yes, my wife's from here.
Mhm.
Originally, I was the first year I was living in Tokyo
Right.
in Shibamata. You
Okay.
know, Tora-san,
Oh yeah,
Gaijin
yeah.
Matsurayo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's his hometown, and yeah, Shibamata. I really loved living there. Really, really, really nice. Really kind of like it's inside Tokyo, but it's still like really quite traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Shibui sort of area,
Right.
and yeah, I loved living there. It was really really great. But thank God I escaped when I did. Like, before this whole
Oh yeah.
Corona situation here, I feel like I dodged a bullet big time there. So yeah,
Right.
I love living here in Yamanashi. I have so Fujisan is down there to the south. To the north, I have Arukurayama right outside. So I've got so much nature here. We've
Yeah.
got deer, bears, inoshishi,
Mm-hmm. The wild boars,
um,
right? Yeah.
wild boar. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
snakes, monkeys, big, huge birds of prey flying around. So much nature. I
Yeah.
love it here. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like you found your element of Japan. So I discussed this with a few other guests too. Is there's really two Japans. There's the big city life, Tokyo, all the lights, the energy that comes with that, and of course, the countryside. And it's
Mm.
two, both are very much Japan, but two completely
Mm.
different worlds in and of themselves.
100%.
Yeah. Do you do a
Yeah,
lot of hiking where you're at? Are you?
absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like getting up into the mountains here. There's a lot of really good routes. I've got really good app on my phone, Yamareko,
Oh yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
shows all the good routes and everything. So yeah, I love getting out into the mountains. Yeah, it's funny you said that. When I was living in Tokyo, I went to Sojiji, which
Mm-hmm.
is the second main Soto Zen temple. It's
Okay.
kind of down in Yokohama. And I went there in the morning for a Zazen session. So in the morning, I went down there, huge temple, really, really beautiful. And I'm sitting there and I'm meditating in the temple, and I can just hear some drums in the distance, the sound of the birds. It's just so peaceful, just surrounded by just natural wood, really, really beautiful. And then about 3 hours later, I
Yeah.
was in Akihabara.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's like complete opposite side. Like you go from that peaceful Zen environment to like Akihabara,
Yeah.
like
Everything that's not
electronic
Zen. Yeah.
video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, they are both Japan.
Right. Right. And that's what's a very unique feature I think about this about Japan in and of itself is of course every nation has its cities and countryside, but um, they're very very distinct here,
Mm.
and you can. I mean, even just here, Utsunomiya is not a large city by any means. It looks like a city though when you're in it, but I mean, it's you can seriously just drive maybe 5 minutes out of the city and you're in the countryside. So it's
Mm.
a very stark contrast just in a short distance, especially here. Many people in Tokyo consider Utsunomiya the city as countryside, even though it's half a million people live here. But it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still quite small compared to other cities here. So um, now, before the current travel situation,
Mm.
whereabouts, where else in Japan have you been to?
Well, when I first came to Japan, it was just a couple of weeks after I arrived. I went down to Kyoto,
Mm-hmm.
and I stayed at just outside Kyoto in Kamioka.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed at a Urinzai Zen monastery for a week. That was really out in the countryside. I had to get a bus to Kyoto, a train to this other town, a bus to the edge of town, and then walk to the temple. So it was way out in the countryside.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Where else have I been? Not really a lot of places. Mainly just around Tokyo. I like to go on like these kind of day trips or like 2 day trips.
Right.
Hakone, places like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kamakura.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Eiheiji, which is the head Soto Zen temple. That's in Fukui. Um, I was supposed to go to just at the end of last year. I was supposed to go to Osaka, but
Okay.
that all got cancelled by the government.
Right.
So I was very disappointed by that. But yes, I've not been up to Hokkaido, down to Osaka. I've not done any of that.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, as long as I've lived here, I've only traveled within Honshu, the main island.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been to Kyushu or Hokkaido or Okinawa or anything like that yet. So,
Hmm.
it's definitely on my list. Whenever we can, freely uh, travel as easily as before.
Hmm.
It's funny, you don't realize what it's you don't really realize what you have until they take it away from you. Just I, but as I said, in a previous show, to be fair though, I mean, Japan, in terms of freedom of movement, Japan is still quite um, relaxed compared to a lot of other countries.
Absolutely.
So it's not like we're imprisoned in our homes like some countries are.
No, no. Well, that's the thing I'm seeing on the news now in England. Oh my God. I don't want to talk about coronavirus too much, but
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
in England, oh my God, people are getting fined for like sitting on a park bench. It's like a police state. It's insane. But here in Japan, it's just like, the government's like, here's the recommendations. Please stay at home.
yeah, yeah.
It's entirely up to you. So yeah, well, so I couldn't go to Osaka because they cancelled the Go To Travel campaign.
I see. Yeah,
Um, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, now's a really good time for domestic travel. There's not all the Chinese tourists coming over.
mm.
It's just yeah, everywhere's a lot quieter. So now is a really, really good time for that.
Right. Last year, right before, or right when the situation was starting to change here, the I think Japan had already was starting to close down international travel. So, but
Mm,
I took a trip over to Kanazawa in Ishikawa Prefecture, and the all the hospitality, all the hotels and everything were much cheaper, and there were
mm.
no, like you said, there were no foreign tourists around. So it's actually really nice just to kind of be able to breathe and kind of walk around without the hustle and bustle of a lot of tourists, and it was very affordable. Shinkansen
Mm.
prices were still high,
Yeah,
but
they don't really change.
yeah, but
Mm,
no, I was able to go to Kyoto last summer,
mm,
and I'd been before, but this was the first time I'd been to Kyoto, and there was just nobody around. It was
mm.
even some of the popular spots were completely empty. There were no other people there, and it was kind of shocking, but it was nice. It was very tranquil. For Kyoto,
Mm.
I felt like it fit better. The tranquility of it.
100%. Absolutely. When I went to Kyoto, because I was staying at the temple, and at the temple we wake up at like 4:30 every day.
Hmm.
Um, so I was in the routine and the habit of getting up really early. So I got up. I was just in Kyoto for a couple of days before going to the temple, but I got up really early and I got like the first train to Fushimi Inari, all the torii
Hmm.
gates.
Hmm.
And I got there and it was completely empty, totally empty. I have some of the most beautiful photos on my phone because there's no one there.
There's no
I
people.
saw
Yeah.
maybe like three other tourists and five Japanese people running.
Hmm.
Other than that, it was no one there. And it was so beautiful walking up the mountain, the silence. I could hear the sound of the stream, the birds. It was just so beautiful, so peaceful. It was really, really fantastic. But I've seen pictures of other people who've been there during the day,
Mm.
and it's like Disneyland. There's just queues of people to take it. Apparently, yeah, literal queues where someone stops to take a selfie and everybody has to stop walking, and it's oh god,
Mm.
horrible. So yeah, now such a fantastic time to experience those places.
Right, right. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a better experience when you don't have too many crowds around. Just to you go back just a little bit to what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
about the UK and how vastly different that is. I heard a funny story. There's a guy in Scotland, I believe, who he lived in Scotland, but his girlfriend lives on the Isle of Man, and
Mm,
he was so uh, I guess love struck that he wanted to
I
see
heard
her.
this.
So he breaks the lockdown rules, buys a jet ski, and tries to jet ski over to the Isle of Man, thinking, oh, it's only going to take him 45 minutes. The waves knock out his GPS. He gets lost.
Oh, I didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
he's lost at sea, and he doesn't know where he's going. And
Oh my God.
after 4 hours, he thinks, oh, I'm gonna die out here, you know. And but luckily, he makes it to the Isle of Man after 4 hours of jet skiing around the ocean, and he gets to see his girlfriend, and then he's promptly arrested and put in prison for 4 weeks for breaking lockdown rules. But he says it was worth it. So
Yeah.
it's just
I didn't hear that he lost the GPS. I did hear about him jet skiing over though. That's funny.
yeah, no, the like about 30 minutes in, a wave knocked out his GPS, and he just started going in circles pretty much after that. So
Wow.
it's that had probably was a bit scary for him, I'd imagine, but
Yeah.
people do strange things for love, passions. So
Yeah.
kind of going back to what you said. So initially you got into martial arts, right? And you said karate and then Muay Thai. So um, uh, how advanced did you get in karate, and then why did you choose Muay Thai after that? Yeah.
Well, so in karate, I was young. I was really young when I was practicing that. I was a good student. I did really well. I got a couple of little trophies, and I was doing really well. I stopped practicing it because there wasn't enough sparring as I wanted.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of regret stopping, but no, a long time ago.
Hmm.
But then, so when I was 21, I really wanted to practice something again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went online and I did research of what was available in my area. And this was when, the UFC was becoming huge. And because of kind of through mixed martial arts, a lot of people were talking about Muay Thai, Brazilian
Mm-hmm.
Jiu-Jitsu. So I kind of knew a little bit about Muay Thai. So I found this Muay Thai gym, and yeah, and then the rest is history. Really, that all goes on from there. And I started. I was training at my gym, and then I
Mm-hmm.
became kind of like an assistant instructor at
Okay.
my gym, and then eventually. I was kind of teaching like outside of the gym. I was kind of teaching my friends, and I was kind of like, I'm pretty good at this. Why
Right.
don't I do this for a living? So then I
Yeah.
became a personal trainer.
Yeah. So that's how I was going to ask how you became a, personal trainer, and is that what you do now
Mm-hmm.
as well in here in Japan?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting. How I mean, obviously there's there's different visas and whatnot, but um, did you come to Japan? You said on holiday, but with the outset of starting a personal training business here, or just being a personal trainer here?
Yeah. So I came here on holiday,
Yeah.
and then I went back to England, and I actually moved up to Manchester for 3 years, and then toward the end of that time, I was living there with a couple of friends. We had an amazing time. Toward the end of that, I was 29, and well, I was like 28, turning to 29, and I thought, okay, well, how am I going to go to Japan? I didn't go to university. I don't have a bachelor's degree, so the whole kind of jet program wasn't really an
Hmm.
option for me.
Right.
I don't like teaching
Yeah.
young kids anyway.
Yeah.
All of my students are adults. um so yeah, so until you're 30, you can get the working holiday visa.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, well, if I'm going to go, now's the time. So yeah, I sold my car. I got myself a working holiday visa, and I came over here. I booked a one-way flight. I came here, and I had no home in England because my sister lives in Canada, and
Okay.
she's married to a Canadian. She's got kids, and my parents moved over there.
I see.
So in England, it was literally I put the rest of my stuff I put in storage, and I had 3 bags and a laptop, and I came to Japan, and it was like, right,
Let's
let's
do it.
go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's I figured like Tokyo, 30 million plus people. I've got skills, experience, qualifications. Like if you are a motivated, resourceful individual, you can make it work.
Right.
And I did.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. And so how just uh, going off of that, how difficult was it getting clients? I mean, I'm sure Tokyo, there's probably, untapped numbers of people looking for any sort of martial arts training. Doesn't matter what it is, what was it? Was it difficult to in the offset to try and build a clientele, or um, we just hit the ground running and just went from there?
At first, it's always a little bit tricky to get started
Hmm.
because you're kind of like an unknown quantity, and like word of mouth and things like that are really big. So yeah, it's always a little bit tricky at the start. But for me, so as a personal trainer anywhere in the world, any personal trainer, you kind of need to have like a niche or like some, I don't want to say gimmick,
Mm.
but something, you don't just want to be like a blank slate personal trainer.
Right.
So at my gym, you'll have like, okay, that guy is a really good physiotherapist, or
Mm.
this person's really good with nutrition, or she is a gymnastic instructor, or you've got some edge. So for me, it's martial arts, my military experience, my powerlifting experience. But
Mm.
here in Japan, I'm English and I
Right.
speak English.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for people here in Japan, it's kind of like a 2 for 1, is
Hmm.
that they get that personal trainer and an English teacher at the
Right.
same time.
Okay.
So that's a really big feature. So yeah, it's tricky, because it's that's a restriction because my Japanese is not great.
Mm.
So that's obviously that restricts me from a lot of clients, but also the fact that I am English makes me more attractive in a lot of ways. So it's
Right.
it's it's hit and miss.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, your gimmick or your hook, I guess, is
Mm,
kind of by
mm,
default just being English. So
yeah.
um, so you've been in Japan going on about 3 years now, right? What's been the
Mm,
most challenging thing you've faced living here instead of just being here on vacation?
mm. Well, so I spent a year in Tokyo, and in that time, I came here. I had no job. I didn't know anyone. I had nothing. So over that year, I spent that time, building contacts, friends, work relationships. Getting to know people. So I spent that time building up. But then when I moved to Yamanashi, it was really just like, cool, throw all that away and start again.
Start
You
again,
know,
yeah. Mm.
yeah, literally coming here, and Yamanashi here at Fuji Yoshida, it doesn't have the same train networking as Tokyo. Traveling around isn't so easy. So when I came here to Yamanashi, I felt quite isolated.
Mm.
When I see people talking about like, oh, coronavirus, oh, I'm stuck inside for 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks. Try like 4 months when
Yeah.
I came here, I didn't know anyone, and here outside of Tokyo, it's obviously much less international,
Hmm.
much less people speak English. So yeah, it was really difficult when I came here and the same happened when I moved up to Manchester. I started again my whole career and all of that. So I started again when I went to Manchester. I started again when I went to Tokyo. I started again when I came to Yamanashi. So that kind of reset again and again was really, really challenging. And then about 6 months after I came to Yamanashi, the whole coronavirus situation started.
Mm.
Last year, 2020, I was planning on traveling back to England, I've not seen my parents for 3 years, my friends, just being in that environment, in
Right.
home.
Mm.
Where's home now? So that's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge, yeah, coming here to Yamanashi, starting again, and just not being able to travel back home.
Mm.
This year it'll be 3 years that I've been in Japan without having been back to England.
Right.
And I'd really just like a couple of weeks, time off, see my parents, familiar environment, just kind of, relax in that way.
Right. Right. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to travel back to the US for my friend's wedding in October of 2019. But
Just before.
yeah, just right before. And then I had plans to travel to America last year, but obviously those got canceled. So who knows? I actually I enjoy traveling within Asia as well, like Southeast Asia, and I had plans to go to Taiwan and Vietnam and Singapore, all these places, but right now that's on hold. So we'll see how the following year happens. So yeah, so for you it was sort of just the transitioning from starting over and moving to Japan and starting anew, and then like you said, scrapping all that and going to Yamanashi and starting up over yet again. But uh, it seems now, though, I mean, you've kind of found a nice flow going, if that's the right word to put it. So, um, do you find yourself happier where you're at now instead of, like, let's say Tokyo or whatever?
Yeah. So for the when I was looking at moving from Tokyo to Yamanashi, I would have liked to have stayed in Tokyo a little bit longer.
Hmm.
It's an amazing city, and the convenience. I really enjoyed every day. I was traveling around on the trains, visiting places, going places. Really nice. But to be honest, outside of work, I felt like I wasn't really using Tokyo.
Mm.
Outside of work, what do I do outside of work? I read, I meditate, I run, I train, I study. These things don't require me to live in Tokyo. I'm not going clubbing, I'm not shopping.
Mm.
It's convenient living in Tokyo, having restaurants and everything, but I'm just not using it,
Right.
you know. So coming out here to the mountains, to Yamanashi, yeah, it's great. Like when I run every day, I run up into the mountains. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
the
great.
fresh air every
Hmm.
day. So yeah, there are some things I miss about Tokyo, but yeah, I'm much happier living out here outside the city. And now, so it's January 2021. This time last year, I I I really wanted to go back to England. I
Mm.
was really like, I need this break. I want to see my parents. I need this time off. And that was kind of the primary goal in my mind.
Mm.
That didn't happen. But over the last year, with my Twitter, my podcast, with work here in the area, with my study, I kind of let go of that,
Yep.
and I really just focused on myself, on my training, on my work, on my study. I got my head down, and yeah, now, and like at the end of 2019, I didn't have any kind of work or friends in the area or anything like that. But now I am established here in Yamanashi, and now
Mm.
I am busy every day. So yeah, now I'm a lot more comfortable now. I'm a lot happier, and I would love to go back to England, but I'm busy.
Yep.
I'm working. I'm really being productive.
No, that's good. That's good. So, um, when you visited these temples, right? Um,
Hmm.
what was your first experience like with that? And can you kind of go through what a typical day is when you stay at one of these temples? Because that's always
Yeah.
fascinating. I've heard of people doing it, and I've always thought, oh, that sounds nice. And then some of them they say, oh, but they can be quite strict here or there. I'm like, maybe not, you know. So, how's your experience been with that? You know?
Yeah, well, the strictness. So to give you a funny story, when I went to Eheiji, um, I was actually a little bit surprised because I thought it was going to be more strict, but
Mm.
maybe I didn't think it was strict because I was doing everything I was supposed to. But in the group of people that were there when I was there were two people from Belgium, I think they were from, and they were married couple. Okay, the wife, she meditated. She was very experienced with meditation. She really had a practice and interest. The husband, zero experience, never done it before, and from what I could tell, he didn't really have any big interest. He was just there because of his wife, really.
Right.
And oh man, yeah, he hated it. He had a terrible time because we were meditating like 5 hours a day, and if you have no experience, no interest, that oh my god, it must have been like torture for him,
Mm.
absolute torture. He
Right.
hated it. And he was like, oh god, he struggled so much. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was funny for the rest of us, not funny for him. He must
Yeah.
have hated it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a regular day, you got an early start. You get up before 5 a.m. So at 5 a.m. The head monk will come into the zazendo, the building for meditating. He
Mm-hmm.
will come in, and at that time you should already be there meditating. So we would start at like 5 minutes before 5 a.m. So you get up at like 4:30, 4:45, and you do whatever. You go to the temple, you meditate. You have a short meditate in the morning, then you go for morning service. You recite sutras, maybe some kind of announcements or something. Then you do cleaning. So while breakfast is being cooked, you're doing cleaning, and then maybe a little bit more meditation, and then you have breakfast, and then more meditation, and then throughout the day you'll have kind of maybe some jobs or some cleaning or more meditation, and then lunch, dinner, and yeah, you just have you're on and off. You're meditating, you're eating, you're cleaning, you're doing some work around the temple, having a bath in the evening. So yeah, it's it is kind of rigid,
Mm.
timetable. And in meditation, yeah, there was one time near the start when that guy from Belgium, he was like looking around, and in the complete silence, the head monk was like, "Don't look around!" like this loud, huge, booming voice in the silence.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So yeah, they are strict, but they're strict because they're trying to help you. They're trying to teach you.
Right.
Discipline is best. Discipline is an internal feature. It's my ability to make myself do something. But discipline is best instilled by someone else.
Right.
Yeah, because it's easier for someone else to punish you than it is for you to punish yourself.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the military, in the temple, in martial arts, they're punishing you because they're trying to teach you. They're trying to help you. They're trying to make you grow. So yeah, I love it.
Do you find it was easier for you to be accustomed to that because you'd been in the military? Because you'd already learned a bit of discipline already at that point, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so. From my experience, military martial arts. Maybe that's why Zen appeals to me so much. Within Buddhism, there's so many different forms of Buddhism, and Zen is definitely a more like disciplined kind of unforgiving kind of practice in a way, with its relation to Bushido and the samurai. That's why they loved it so much, because it really tied in with their kind of military lifestyle. So yeah, you're absolutely right. For me, when we were kind of walking around the temple, or I would almost be like if we were gathering somewhere before moving to another area, I
Hmm.
would be stood there like at attention. So
Right.
yeah, that kind of lifestyle is perfectly fine for me. I love it. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, it's yeah, from everyone I've talked to that has done something like that, they say that they've had varying degrees of stories, but they've all said it was a very beneficial
Mm.
experience. And I believe there's actually a temple here that you can do something like that. I'll have to do more research now because
Mm.
my my interest has been piqued a little bit. So
Okay.
I sometimes I feel I need a little bit more discipline in my life. So but
Yeah.
so I the way I found you actually was on Twitter, and it's funny. How did you get into that? Get into Twitter, and you've kind of developed like your own niche, a little way of doing Twitter, and it seems like it's a useful tool for what you're doing, right?
Yeah. I've been really surprised by Twitter.
Hmm.
So years ago, when I was in Manchester, I started writing kind of like blog articles because I had friends asking me about meditation and philosophy, and I was doing so much reading, so much studying, so much practicing myself. I wanted to share things with them, so I started writing blog articles, and then I've never been a big fan of social media. I'm not really about that, but at the end of 2019, I thought to myself, actually, I wanted to start a podcast.
Okay.
So a lot of these things that I was writing about in blog articles, it's just like, well, I'm just going to record it and do it like a podcast. So actually, joining Twitter originally, that was just to support my podcast. I wasn't. It was just that's just where I'm going to kind of advertise my podcast. My image of podcast before, I thought like, oh, that's just where people follow like Kim Kardashian tweeted this or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
Like, but what I was amazed to find is it takes some time, but there are these communities within Twitter. People talk about money Twitter and
Hmm.
things like that, and from the outside, there's kind of no way to find this, but eventually, somehow, you meet one person who's like they've got 20,000 followers or something, and then they these kind of big players like retweet each other, and they all know each other, and then you get into this kind of like niche, and
Yeah.
yeah, I've found all these like really motivated, disciplined, positive people who are all working on themselves, who are all developing themselves, and it's been amazing. And over these last couple of years, some of my friends, they're kind of like, I love them to bits, but they're maybe like not so disciplined.
Mm.
They're not exercising, and they're just like, they're using the like, why didn't you do anything this year? Oh, coronavirus.
Yeah. Yeah. An
And it's
excuse.
like,
Yeah.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly. It's an excuse, and meanwhile, there's these people in this corner of Twitter who are just like working really hard, and it's just like, okay, I'm stuck at home, but this isn't a prison. This is a temple. You
Right.
know, I'm
Right.
if I'm stuck here, I can still study, I can still read, I can still exercise, I can still practice, I can still do so many things all the time. I'm
Yeah.
growing, I'm moving forward, I'm working on my business, I'm meeting people like yourself. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I've and this kind of like Japanese expat society kind of thing as well. So yeah, I have been really grateful for Twitter, and I've been really grateful for the people I've connected with, and that kind of positive echo chamber.
Yeah. Yeah. And people talk about like echo chambers as a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to have um, like-minded people around to,
Yeah.
because you kind of not only bounce good ideas off each other and you could learn from each other, but also it helps. I wouldn't say with necessarily motivation, but it's sort of like the keep accountability, I guess. Like
Mm-hmm.
having like people say like having an accountability partner, but you have an
Yes.
accountability group. Like you have a whole
Mm.
group of people that are just sort of like, hey, what are you doing today, or hey, what's up, and you could do the same thing to them, and
Yeah.
that's it's quite um, helpful if doing something alone is fine, if you have the discipline, but it's always nice to have other people who are supportive in that too,
Yeah.
and that you can
Yeah.
support as well. So um, yeah, I found it's always funny how you find people in that sphere. Like I forgot how I found a lot of people, but you're right. It's just you see someone that you follow retweet something, and then you're like, oh, who's this? And you go, you kind of go down a rabbit hole, and you find all these
Yes.
all these
Yeah.
different people, all these different ways. You have some that are more philosophy um, oriented, and some that are more money oriented. Some are into AI, or and then some of them kind
Mm.
of all connect that in some ways too. So
Yes.
it's a very interesting thing. And when I first joined Twitter, no, sorry, I mean I joined Twitter, like back when it started, but I didn't really utilize it until the past
Mm.
couple of years, and I started it mostly just to promote, the podcast and YouTube and stuff, and then Um, but my image of it was just, there's just people arguing on the internet, and then
Mm.
then it became like how I got my news, because
Mm.
um, I, it's not necessarily about like fake news, this, but I find I started realizing more and
No,
more that,
mainstream media is trash.
oh, right, it is, I
It's
mean,
all
even,
trash. Say it, say
yeah,
it.
but I was always a bit skeptical of media, even growing up, but it wasn't until the past few years I just realized
Hmm.
like all of it is just garbage, and Twitter, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going to find garbage on Twitter, but you can find garbage from everywhere, and if you sift through it a little bit, you can kind of find what's actually going on, and is you could find late breaking news happening on Twitter before it's reported anywhere else. Like, actually, this is funny. A
Mm.
couple of years ago, here in Utsunomiya, there was a guy who he blew himself up in one of the local parks. A suicide bomb.
Wow.
Yeah,
Whoa, what?
and so, but the reason how I found out about it was on Twitter. Because
Mm.
localized whatever, and I saw like this picture, it said smoke, and then it said like Utsunomiya. I go, what? And so I look out my window and I see the smoke plumes, like,
Oh.
holy shit, what is this? And the more I read into it, they said it was a suicide bomb. They're not sure how many people were injured. And I'm like, wow, is this like terrorism or something that's reached like
Mm.
Japan? And
Yeah.
which is, Japan's not been free of terrorism, but it's been like usually domestic terrorism in 40, 50
Mm.
years ago, but
Mm.
um, it was just shocking to see something like that. And as the news started flowing out, it was an ex uh, a self-defense force guy. He recently retired, um, or he'd been retired, and apparently his wife left him, and so
Mm.
he was, in his 60s. He was alone and he was bitter, and so what he did, he burned down his house. He lived quite far away. He burned down the house, or set it on fire at least, and then drove up to Utsunomiya, parked his car, walked to the main temple, or the main shrine in Utsunomiya, the central shrine, did whatever he was doing there, and then he walked the main path, which leads all the way to the castle park, the castle ruins park we have here, and he blew himself up. And
Wow.
he no one else died, but he injured two people. I think a junior high aged girl and someone else. Um, but it was just shocking to see something like. But no one, I mean, that was I first spotted that on Twitter, so that's how quickly the news, travels around. So, to make a long story short, that's how I was getting news. And then it just became more and more, that became more toxic. So I had to eventually start muting and blocking certain things and just focus on what was important, that what benefit I could get from Twitter, instead of letting the negativity get to me as well. So
Yeah, it's how you curate it
mm-hmm.
as well. Like when people say, you see people on Facebook say like, "Oh, I'm tired of all this drama, blah blah blah." It's like that's you.
Yeah.
You're searching that out. So yeah, if you it's we all know about how the algorithms work, that
Mm-hmm.
it shows you stuff that people click more on things that outrage them and make them angry, and that's how mainstream media works. It's basically just this like high budget clickbait bullshit. It's like what gets people watching the news? Fear and anger. So they're going to give us stuff that makes us scared, and they're going to give us stuff that makes us angry.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Twitter, yeah, sometimes you can start to get sucked into this kind of like, especially now with like politics and so I've got on my my muted words. I've got COVID, coronavirus, mask, as well as Trump, Biden.
Yeah.
So I've got all that muted because it's just like it just it makes me angry and it makes me frustrated, and it's just I'm not contributing to that in any productive way, and that is not affecting me in any productive way. So
Right.
just any involvement with that is just not productive. So I'm just like, look, I'm just no, don't need it, cutting it off. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to focus on myself, my training, my wife, my business, my family, my friends. Those are the things I'll focus on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with Twitter, yeah, there are a lot of people who are, we talked about echo chambers, like people. So like a kind of a buzzword that's kind of popular right now is tribalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's always talking about tribalism, but like the fact is, we're all tribal. Of course we are. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
is. That's
Right.
human nature. We're social animals. Of course we are. Um, so the key is to have a positive tribe. You can be tribal but still be inclusive and compassionate and open. You know, being tribal doesn't mean, oh, you're so closed off. That's just nonsense. So yeah, having that positive tribe has surrounding yourself with motivated people. Because individually our motivation fluctuates. We have good days and we have bad days.
Mm.
So having those people who are positive, who are motivated, who are high energy, that I've got guys like Danny Miranda, who is
Mm.
just seemingly has limitless supplies of positivity.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have people, soul bro, like who's just so high energy all the time. So when I can go onto Twitter and I can see that, it helps bring me back up when maybe I'm feeling a little bit down.
Right. Right. Yeah. Same. Sometimes I, feel like, I'll be in a good groove, going, you know, following my gym schedule and doing all these things. And then, for example, like over the New Year's holiday, I was sick and, with some food poisoning. And uh, even then I was, still going to the gym. I just tough through it, because it wasn't anything dealing with, it wasn't coronavirus, so I was still able to go out. And but you know, even as sometimes debilitating as that was, I was like, no, I still got to do it. It doesn't matter. And but then, in terms of my diet, getting that back to, eventually I had to go to the doctor for it. And the doctor was like, eat this and you'll get better. And it's like everything opposite of what I normally eat. You know, it's
Mm,
just very bland, carb heavy stuff. And
mm,
I was like, if you know, I was like, it got me thinking like, okay, it took me years to get to a, you know, not unhealthy state, but where I was before. So just a couple of days of going back to that is not going to make me unhealthy again. You know, it's not going to set me off my path too much. And because what I was eating was not helping my stomach situation. It was making it was prolonging it apparently. And
right.
sure enough, you know, just a few days of eating just bland udon noodles and uh, miso soup was fine, but just like
Mm,
udon noodles and you know, just things like that. I was like, it's boring when you can't put anything else with it, you know, and two, it's just this just not what I'm used to eating, and but
mm,
it helped the situation, but then it's like, you know, go back to what you were doing, and you know, ease back into it, and it works. So um, that discipline, it really helps, even if you are forced to kind of go off the path a little bit. It kind of, I mean, you can easily start going down a different path if you don't catch
mm.
it, but if you have that discipline, it's like, nope, you pull it back in and get you back on the right path, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And it helps having those people to kind of support you with that. Yeah.
Right,
Mm.
right. Go ahead.
You reminded me actually, one of the toughest things about moving to Japan, which I didn't really expect, was so do you know anything about the endocrine system?
A, a little bit. It's not. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it or anything, but
Right.
I
Well,
am
me neither.
I am yeah I'm familiar with the term. So yeah.
Yeah, so we all have our hormonal systems inside us, and the endocrine system is kind of one of the slowest moving hormonal systems. So we have the food that we eat. Now this is often why crash diets don't really work, and
Yeah.
they're certainly not sustainable. Is that it sounds like I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it's relevant. So the food that we eat, we counter it with hormones,
Mm,
right? So, you know, generally speaking, if, you know, I have, you know, the kind of usual food that I eat, it has a certain amount of like fats and oils and sugars and all of these things. And my body meets that with my hormones. Now, if we go on a crash diet and overnight we just completely change our diet, the levels of what we eat, they change, right? But our hormonal response, that doesn't immediately change. That takes a long time to then match that, right? Which
mm,
is why some people who've got terrible, terrible diets, it can take months to change their diet, because you don't want to, because if you change it, that they'll feel like shit. You
right.
know, that's why
Right.
some people, even some people, even if they start eating really, really healthily, they feel like shit. And it's like, why do I feel so bad when I'm eating so healthily?
Mm,
It's
mm,
because of that hormonal imbalance. So when I came to Japan, you know, at first, you know, it's kind of like a holiday and you're like, oh, I'm eating all this great food. Yeah, this is great. But
yeah.
then eventually I started having these kind of cravings, and like, and it's like I wasn't hungry, but I felt like I wanted to eat. And I realized it's because I wasn't having what I was used to having back in England. You know, the food here is great. I love it, but it's just not what my body's used to,
Right.
you know? So there was that period, like after the honeymoon phase, you know, when you're living here, my body is like craving, like, man, I want like a good curry or like a
Mm,
lasagna or something, you know?
right.
And yeah, but then eventually my body matches, and you know, now I feel, you know, it's just totally normal. But
Right.
that takes time. You know, that does take time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's, you know, why a lot of people give up on, especially on the diet end of things, is
Yeah.
they think it's gonna happen overnight. And Well, nothing with your body happens overnight unless it's, you know, like a physical accident or something, you know. But
You might
any
have the best intentions. You might
yeah,
have the best intentions, but your body doesn't care about that. You
right,
know,
right.
takes time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And well, I mean, it's funny. The first time I kind of noticed something like that was after I moved to Japan. I noticed I wouldn't say I had heartburn a lot in America, but I had, you know, every once in a while I'd get a case of, you know, heartburn and whatnot. But after moving to Japan, it just disappeared, and I don't know if it
Mm,
was, and I wouldn't say my diet was, especially when I moved here, was not the healthiest. I still kind of continued to eat the things I normally did, but maybe it's just what's the food's packaged in, or what additives or whatever were in the food are not the same as back in America. So maybe that it wasn't giving me my body wasn't responding in the same way. Um, now it plus, you know, I mean, you're in a different part of the world. You're A lot of people don't realize their gut bacteria also affects a lot of
yes.
things. So when you're
Mm,
drinking water from a different part of the world, when you're eating food from a different part of the world, it changes your gut microbiome a lot. And I mean, you could become a different person because it also affects your mental state as well, you know, and
yeah, I've heard some insane stuff about how your gut biome affects like your, you know, it affects your serotonin levels, your
Mhm,
dopamine levels, like unbelievable effect on who you are.
right. Yeah. So with anything, yeah, that's why discipline, I'm sure you know that discipline's very important in that, is because your body will not change overnight, but if you stay the course, then you know it's easier. It gets easier as you go along. You know, you can't let the immediate effects, you know, affect you and get you back off the path that you want to head into. You know. Mm.
Yeah, and somebody said, I think it's a really good point, is about like people say about like, you know, like, oh, I'm on this diet, how long do I have to be on this diet for, or how long do I have to do this exercise for? And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter,
Mm.
because you know you want to be doing this, you know, forever. You know,
Yeah.
because what, you know, if you want short-term effort, you're going to get short-term results, you know. And I know you can't say that to people, because then, you know, when you say forever to people, it scares people away, you
Hmm.
know. But you know what we want is, we are trying to elicit long-term behavioral changes.
Yeah.
You know, that should really be the end goal. So yeah, it's tough and it's difficult, but yeah, it is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, any positive change that you make, you know, you gotta be dedicated to doing it. You know, like just getting into physical fitness. You know, I was never really good at playing any sports when I was growing up. I tried and I just didn't have the talent for it. But and aside to that, when I was playing in school, I played American football, and in the off season, we would just weight train. And I said, well, I
Mm,
actually enjoy this. I enjoy lifting weights. I enjoy weight training. I don't really enjoy playing the sport, but I enjoy the training aspect of it, and so I continue that, you know, long after I, you know, quit the sport. And you know, moving to Japan, I didn't want to pay the god awful prices of the 24-hour gyms here. You know, like before,
mm,
you know, originally it was just like Gold's Gym or something, and they were, you know, about $100 a
so
month. You know,
expensive.
it's so expensive. And
Yeah.
even now, you know, they have Anytime Fitness or whatever, and they're uh, which are great, you know, because you can go anytime, in the name, Anytime Fitness. But even then, it's cheaper, but it's still quite expensive compared to the, at least I'm not sure how gym prices are in the UK, but America, it's, you know,
Mm,
like $20-30 a month maybe. You know,
mm,
it's quite, at least last time I was there, it was that cheap for a gym membership. But for me, it was difficult to I tried to find anything I could to keep doing that, and so I just went to like local we call them Rocky gyms. It's like it looks like something Rocky would train at. These old,
They're the best ones.
yeah, actually they are. Um, you got to make do with what equipment that's in there. And
Yes,
those are
yes.
fun. But and then I found one that was just close to where I could go, and that accommodated my working hours and everything. So um, I have some things at home, like some kettlebells and whatnot, but
Mm.
I always found a change of environment helped me better. My home was more of in my mind, my mind was trained, it was more of a relaxing place. So I would never, I
Mm.
could do workouts here, but it was always either half done, not the full effort, or it was prolonged because I would take rest periods. So uh, when I changed my physical environment, it helps me focus better. I mean, for me. So sometimes,
100%.
yeah, people will need that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. I'm the same. I've got a set of dumbbells here at home, but it's honestly it's difficult to do a really good workout here at home. When I go to the gym, I nail it every time.
right.
Every time, I
Hmm.
smash the hell out of it when I'm at the gym. But here, it's just so difficult to get started. Because your brain is, this is where I relax. This is
Hmm.
where I'm,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah, your interior reflects your exterior. Recently, I've been going to Komeda Cafe.
Yep.
I've been going there to do writing for my podcast and my book and things like that because just putting myself in that environment, I can just like, okay, this is my office,
Right.
you know,
Mm.
now it's time to work. So yeah, that's there's a lot of value to that, a lot of value to that. Some people, I mean, Jesus Christ, at the gym, there's some people who go to the gym who only use the treadmill.
Right.
That's it. It's like
Yeah.
you're paying all this gym membership just to use a treadmill.
When you
Like,
can
okay,
just take a walk
one,
in
run.
your neighborhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go outside.
Yeah.
What did you run out of road?
Mm.
So like, but I guess for them, they need it to be okay. Now I'm at the gym. Now this is my routine. I'm at the
Right.
gym. I'm working.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is different. And and again, we were talking about echo chambers. We were talking about tribalism. This is one of the benefits of going to classes.
Hmm.
You know, I always try to be an independent, self-reliant person, but really, I don't think of I don't go to like classes in the usual commercial gym kind of sense of the thing. But
Right.
really, when I think about it, well, this all started back in karate and Muay Thai.
Mm.
Those are group classes that I would go to. So I had that community. I would go to the gym and people know your name. People know, expect you. People say hi to you, and that's powerful. That's really really powerful. So
Right.
yeah, again, you said about accountability.
Hmm.
It's really valuable. Yeah, that's something that I say to a lot of people is if I'm Bob and I'm like, oh man, I need to lose weight. At the start of that journey, it's just me. It's all about me. I need to lose weight. This is my problem, no one else. And you just think about yourself. And it's like, okay, but there are so many communities that can help you with that you are completely unaware of. You go join a gym and you go for long enough, people will know your name. People will expect you to be there. You
Right.
go online on like, I don't know, like weight loss Twitter or something, and you get to know people, and maybe you upload your progress. Again, people will connect with that. So yeah, I know, we all kind of feel alone sometimes, but you need to connect with those people around you who have the same mindset, who are moving in that positive direction.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's always you know very beneficial to find um, that invite. You like you said, similar to Twitter curating. You can curate your Twitter. You can curate your own environment in your life as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Um, so you said you have not only the Twitter, but you host your own podcast. So, and you mentioned that you integrate your studies and your meditation into that. So when did you one more time? When did you start the podcast, and how is it progressing for you at this point?
So I started my podcast this time last year,
Okay.
2020, start of 2020. And so as a personal trainer, you know, things like martial arts, powerlifting, I kind of need to be with you. We need to
Right.
do that together, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But meditation and sharing a lot of the things I've learned about philosophy and mindfulness, you know, I just need to talk to you, you know. So I can share a lot of that and philosophy, you know, related with martial arts and combat and things like that. Because this is all tied together. My weightlifting, my exercise, my meditation, it's all my working in security, military. It's all connected.
Yeah.
So a lot of that I can share. So yeah, that's the really good thing about my podcast is, you know, I can just speak and I can just share that. And yeah, it's been going really well. I've some of the messages I've received on Twitter have been fantastic. You know, people telling me how much you know, they've been enjoying my content and how much it's affected them, and that's why I'm doing it, you know, to try and connect and share what I've learned, because everything that I've learned has changed my life in ways you would not believe, honestly, you know. And if I I know the positive effect that these things can have
Mm.
from my own experience, and I want to share that with other people. And I've been so fortunate that I've been able to connect with people and share that with them. Unfortunately, I've not released a new episode for a while now,
Yeah.
because I've been writing my book,
Okay. Okay.
which has been going very, very well. I'm making some really good progress on that. That's one of my main big goals for this year, is to get published. But I've been focusing on that on so much that I've actually dropped off my podcast a little
Mm.
bit. Yesterday I went to Comodo and I was writing a new podcast episode. So I do want to continue. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult because I'm not making money from it, so it's you know, just in my free time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I will continue with my podcast, but also I'm working on this book,
Okay.
which is going to be kind of my big thing for 2021.
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be I was going to ask you if you were thinking of writing a book, and you've now answered that you are writing a book. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's something definitely to look forward to this year as well. And don't feel too bad about the podcast. Sometimes it's as my listeners can attest, it might be a couple of months before mine comes. But one of my goals, you know, for this year is to consistently um, put out the not only episodes of the podcast, but improve the quality as well,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of audio and visual. So far, I've just been doing it this way: um, headset mic, web camera. Obviously, right now it's difficult to get people in person to talk to, but I can make do with what I can do, and just always aim to improve on that. So um, that's that will hold I will hold myself accountable for that to keep doing that. And I've so far it's been going quite well this year. So
Hmm.
it's nice to find again that echo chamber. You know, just people of getting things done, seeing it. It's motivating for me to keep on doing it. You know, so
Hmm.
it's always good to find others who are hyper focused in that way too, you know. So it's your life's whatever you make it to be, you know. And
Yeah.
and that you know, not to go off too much on a tangent here, but there was a point in my life where I used to think things happened to me, and
Hmm.
then that when that switch went off where it's no, I can change things, is when my life improved over 1,000% from that. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
not only mindset, but um, all areas of my life just seemed to improve after that switch. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was a, I can't even really pinpoint the turning point, but there was a time where I just told myself I can't live like this anymore, and I got to make some changes, and I'm the only one that can do it. No one's going to do it for me. And
100%.
yeah, and it's been a fun journey. You know, it's there's obviously been ups and downs in there, but you got to take it on the
Was
chin.
that before you came to Japan,
Actually,
or
so no, actually, it was after I came here. So
mm,
I didn't come to Japan to escape anything.
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to come here, and I originally wanted to just stay for the year and a half that I was contracted for, but and I left. I went back to the States after a year, and then something was nagging at me like, nah, I'm not done with Japan. So I went back, and it was, I went through like I guess a second honeymoon phase where I'm like, yeah, I'm back in Japan. It's great just to be back. But I ended up just kind of spinning my wheels a little bit. And I noticed I was just repeating patterns that I did back in America. And I was like, what am I doing? And
Mm,
I had to, and in terms of like friendships and relationships and things, I was seeing the same patterns that I saw growing up. And I thought, not everything is my fault, but I am responsible for my life. So if I
yeah.
want something to change, I got to make that change. Nobody's
Yes.
going to do it for me. And, and I used to, think, oh, why does this happen to me? Or, what? And then instead of asking, why does this happen to me? I started saying, what can I do to change the situation? And, and then stop worrying. This actually came later, but stop worrying about things that I can't control too. Like, and
Yes.
that's been a
Yes.
big help too. Is like, you know, yeah, it sucks if 2, 3 feet of snow fall and you got to dig your car out, but uh, that's what you can do. You can dig it out. I mean,
Yeah.
but um, or if it rains and you don't have an umbrella, well, in Japan, I kind of hate the phrase because of the way it's used, but the shogunai thing is, sometimes there are situations where you just say, well, it
Yeah.
can't be helped. You just got to deal with it, but
Mm,
it is
mhm.
thrown around a bit too much here, I think. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, well, sometimes people, I've said that to my wife when people
mhm,
say like shogunai, it's like, no, 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 it can be helped.
mhm,
Don't say shogunai. It can be helped. You
right.
can help it.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was, a lot of people say, wherever you go, there you are, like you bring just changing location's not going to change you.
Mm, mhm.
But, and that's true. However, I used the change of environment, and even though I knew a few people here, but when I started making the changes, there I was still very much removed from what I was used to, and I used that as an opportunity to
Yes.
dig into myself and to do a lot of self work in
A
terms of
catalyst for change.
right. So, yeah, the environment's not going to change you, but you can use that to focus on yourself. Sort of like, the Corona stuff last year and continuing this year. A lot of people just, nothing wrong with Netflix or having a lazy day here or there, but if that's
Mm.
how you treat the whole of quarantine, like what are you
Mm,
doing? But
yeah.
some people, like we discussed earlier, took that as an opportunity to say, no, I'm going to use this for self reflection, self improvement. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to actually use it to my advantage, and that's kind of what I did moving here. It wasn't the reason why I moved here, but it was a result of me um, moving here. Was I started to make those changes, and it was very helpful. So I always say, the one of the biggest things I'm proud of is moving here, and it's not nothing special anymore these days. Oh, you live in a different country, you live in Japan. It's not really special, but for me, it was the decision of removing myself from my old environment and making the changes to myself. It didn't have to be Japan. It could be anywhere really, but Japan just happened to be the place where I was able to do that, to shift that, you know. So I have a special affinity for that, for Japan, for that too, you know. So
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
obviously different reasons why I still love living here, but you know, Japan, in a sense, I did the changes, but Japan, I feel, kind of helped me with that too, you know.
Yeah, we have the internal self and
Hmm.
our external environment. And if your internal self, if you are not willing to change, then you will project your problems, your difficulties, whatever they are, wherever you go in the world, you will project that,
Hmm.
and you will encounter the same problems and the same difficulties. But if you are willing to change, then changing your environment can help. If you have problems inside and your environment reflects that, if you are trying to change yourself inside, it's almost like you're battling your environment.
Hmm.
But if you can change your environment and you are willing to change yourself as well, then that's perfect. You can use that external change to help motivate like a fulcrum for your own internal change as well. So
Right.
so yeah, that's really beneficial. That's really important. And so many things that you said that are just absolutely bang on. Like that's classic Stoic philosophy of of if I can change it, then I will, and I will engage with that. With everything, we can either choose to change it, we can choose to remove ourselves from it, or we can choose to accept it.
Hmm.
You know, and people often choose secret option number 4, which is I'm not going to change it, I'm not going to remove myself from it, and I'm not going to accept it. I'll just be angry, you know.
Right.
So yeah, if you so the question that I always ask everyone is, what are you going to do about it?
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Hmm.
that's the only question. What are you going to do about it? Okay, because if you can do something about it, then do that thing. Okay. But if you can't do something about it, then just getting angry or upset or frustrated with it, that's just damaging you, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Okay, so American politics, Trump and Biden, okay, what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm not American. I can't vote. I'm not living in America. That I cannot do anything about that. That is an event. That's just like the weather. Maybe it's sunny, maybe it's raining, maybe it's Trump, maybe it's Biden.
Right.
I have no influence on that whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah.
So, whatever the situation is, for better or worse, I need to accept that. Okay. Coronavirus, the lockdown, we've not really had a lockdown here in Japan, but the restrictions, okay, what am I going to do about that? It's like, okay, maybe I can't travel to England. Okay, I'm stuck at home. Okay, what am I going to do about that? Okay, well, I can study, I can exercise, I can work on my business, I can do these things.
Right.
So that's the only question you ever need to ask anyone. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to complain and feel sorry for yourself? That's not an option. It's not an option. You have to take control of your life. Again, something else you said, no one else is going to come and save you.
Yeah.
That is this infantile mindset of like, when you are a child, you always think, well, no matter what happens, my parents will take care of it. Well,
Exactly.
at some point, you need to take control of your own life.
Hmm.
No one else is going to give you a job. No one else is going to give you money
Yeah.
just because you're so special. No, you're not. You need to take control of your own life.
Yeah.
And like you said, when people have that shift in mindset, your whole life will change. you know there's so many people entitled entitled is like the big word I really hate. And
Mm-hmm.
so many people have this. I think in the West, especially, and social media is a big part of this, people feel that they deserve so much. It's like, like I don't want to get too controversial, but
Mm.
like Black Lives Matter. It's
Right.
like, you know what? No lives matter.
Yeah.
Like you are just a creature living in this world. You can get struck by lightning.
Mm.
Nature, the world will keep spinning.
Yeah. Nature doesn't care
We
about you. Yeah.
does
Yeah.
not care at all. Some
Yeah.
people say Black Lives Matter. Other people say all lives matter. No
No.
lives matter.
Yeah.
You could die today, and no, the world will continue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
you need to get over yourself, and no one is coming to save you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this life, it is what it is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you've been dealt these cards, and you know what? Gratitude. I'm always saying to everyone, like, are you kidding me? Like, I have got a roof over my head.
Mm-hmm.
I've got fresh, clean water coming out of the tap. Do you know how many people in the world don't have clean water
Yeah.
just coming out of a
Well,
tap inside their house?
well, even in parts of the United States, in the Detroit, or not Detroit, Flint, Michigan, you turn
Is
on the
that
tap, and
fracking?
I don't know if that's from fracking or not. Fracking's
Okay.
more in my state of Texas. There's a lot
Okay.
of fracking, but
Okay.
actually, funny story in my hometown recently because of that. But no, in I think in Flint, it's they can't drink the tap water because it is poison. I think I'm not sure what's in
Oof.
it, lead or something, but you literally cannot drink the tap water in that whole
Mm.
city, and it's been going on for years. And the governments there are corrupt, and it's just like, man. And I tell people, why don't you just, or well, I don't say it, but people wonder why don't they just leave? And some of these people, they're so poor, they can't, they have nowhere else to go, and so
Yeah.
they can leave, yes, but
You can't just have an exodus of an entire city. It's not that
right,
easy.
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, for them, that's something. They can't control the water; they can control where they
Mm.
live, but sometimes they need the means to get that. So whatever they can work on to get there. But no, you're right. Like you know we are lucky. We are to live in places that have fresh, clean water, and in Japan, it's relatively safe here. It's relatively,
Mm.
um, you know, people for the most part mind their own business here too. They're not going to get
Mm.
in your face about anything here, and I think that's a lot of appeal for a lot of Westerners, especially, is oh, this is refreshing. No one's in my face about this political thing or this religious thing or this,
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, I can just relax and breathe. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, the gratitude thing is good. Again, I wake up and I sometimes I think, I don't want to do this today, but I'm thinking, well, if I don't, none of this is possible. So
Yeah.
just do it. So
Mm.
um, it's something I think a lot of people would benefit from is to remember that, and remember
Uh,
not only they're lucky, but also at the same time that could go away at any time too.
mm. Mm.
It's
Mhm.
like you said, no lives matter in terms of nature because it could all be gone in a second.
Yeah.
So
And that's another big part of both Stoicism, memento mori,
hmm
remember that you will die, and also Zen as well. Again, which is why it appealed to the samurai so much, because they were warriors dealing with death,
hmm
and the stark finality of Zen is yeah, it's powerful that eventually we are all of us going to die,
yeah,
and it's just, it really is perspective. All reality is perspective, but it's remarkable and honestly a little bit depressing how quick people forget. I
yeah,
mean, World War II is within living memory.
yeah,
There were people who lived through that who are still alive today.
yeah.
World War One,
A
maybe not so
few,
much
yeah, yeah.
now. Yeah, a few, but but two of the most unimaginable wars humanity has ever known within living memory. And people were talking like, oh, the coronavirus. People say about the coronavirus, like, this is the most challenging thing humanity has ever faced.
Like,
are you serious? Like,
have
oh
you
my
noticed the
God.
plague in the Middle Ages? You know, the
Yeah, have
plague,
you read a book?
Right.
You know, like, it's unbelievable. So yeah, having that perspective and being grateful, like, you know, before we were born, there was an infinite void of nothing. It was not even nothing, it was void. For all time and space, there was zero.
I mean, there was no start, there was no end. It was just
no time, no space, nothing. Okay. And after we die, we will return to that void.
Right.
Okay. But right now, there is this infinitesimally small moment in time when we are alive, and I get to see these unbelievable colors and sound and sights and beauty and culture and people and agreements and disagreements, and it's all so amazing and so incredible. What foolishness to squander that complaining about this irrelevant nonsense that people spend their whole lives focusing on. It's an affront to the beauty of life. So yeah, people really should practice a lot more gratitude and a lot more appreciation, a lot more perspective to really appreciate the beauty of this reality in which we live.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's I agree 100%. Yeah. So Lewis, I'd like to say thank you again for being on today. Where can we find you online? Where are the best places to find you?
So my Twitter account is @Budo. That's the best place to find me. You can find me there. And also I'm having to look this up because I don't know it off the top of my head. But @Budo is my my Twitter account.
Okay.
I'm also, you can get my podcast on Anchor.fm, Anchor.fm/Budo the Marshall Way. Okay, but that is linked to on my Twitter account, and my podcast is available. It's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you just search for the Marshall Way, Budo the Marshall Way, you'll be able to find that, and you'll be able to find me.
Okay, great, Lewis. Thank you again, and I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'd like to do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you very much for getting in touch with me. I really appreciate it. I want to start having people on my podcast as well this year, so I'd love to have you on it and continue chatting.
Sure.
And just to keep in touch on Twitter as well, because it's nice to, again, we were talking about echo chambers, about tribalism. You are a foreigner living in Japan. It's not like England has so many, England, Canada, America, so many immigrants. In Japan, it's not that many people.
Right.
So it's always really, really nice to connect with somebody else who you understand. What it's like.
100%. All right, Lewis. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Yes.